Section 163. Sanjaya said to monarch, provoking Arjuna still further, who was like a snake of virulent poison, by means of those wordy strokes of his. Uluka once more repeated the words he had once spoken. The Pandavas had before such repetition been sufficiently provoked, but hearing these words a second time, and receiving those censures through the gambler's son, they were provoked beyond endurance. They all stood up and began to stretch their arms, and looking like enraged snakes of virulent poison, they began to cast their eyes on one another, and Bhimasena, with face downwards and breathing heavily like a snake, began to glance obliquely at Keshava, directing the blood-red corners of his eyes towards him, and beholding the wind god's son to be greatly afflicted and extremely provoked with rage, he of the Sarha's race smilingly addressed the gambler's son and said, "Depart hence without a moment's delay, O gambler's son, and say unto Suryodhana these words, which thy words have been heard and since understood. Let that take place which thou desirest." Having said this, O best of monarchs, the mighty armed Keshava looked once more at Yudhishthira, endued with great wisdom. Then in the midst and presence of all the Sanjayas of Krishna, possessed of great fame, of Drupada with his sons, of Virata, and all the kings there assembled, Uluka once more repeated unto Arjuna the words he had said, provoking him still further thereby, like one annoying a wrathful snake of virulent poison by means of his tail. And he also said unto all of them, this Krishna and others, those words that Duryodhana had instructed him to say. And hearing those harsh and highly disagreeable words uttered by Uluka, Partha was greatly excited and wiped the sweat off his forehead. And beholding Partha, O king, in that condition, that assembly of monarchs could not bear it at all, and that insult to Krishna and the high-souled Partha, the car warriors of the Pandavas were greatly agitated, though endued with great steadiness of mind. Those tigers among men began to burn with anger, and Drishtadyumna and Shikhandi and that mighty car warrior, Satyaki and the 5 Kekeya brothers, and the Rakshasa Ghatotkaja, the sons of Draupadi and Abhimanyu, and King Drishtaketu and Bhimasena endued with great prowess. And those mighty car warriors, the twins, jumped up from their seats, their eyes red with anger, tossing their hands and arms decked with red sandal paste and ornaments of gold. Then Rikodara, the son of Kunti, understanding their gestures and arts, sprang up from his seat, and gnashing his teeth and licking with his tongue the corners of his mouth, and burning with rage and squeezing his hands, and turning his eyes fiercely, said these words unto Uluka, "Ignorant fool, thy words have now been heard, which Duryodhana said unto thee for the object of provoking us, as if we are a set of imbeciles. Hear now the words which I say, and which thou art to repeat unto the inaccessible Suryodhana in the midst of all the Kshatriyas, and in the hearing of the Suta's son and the wicked-hearted Sukuni. We always seek to gratify our elder brother. It was for this, O thou of wicked behavior, that we tolerated thy acts. Dost thou not regard this as highly fortunate for thee? It was for only the good of our race that King Yudhishthira, the just, endued with great intelligence, sent Rishikesha to the Kurus for bringing about a peace. Impelled by fate, without doubt, thou art desirous of repairing unto Yama's abode. Come fight with us. That, however, is certainly to take place tomorrow. I have indeed vowed to slay thee with thy brothers. O sinful fool, do not entertain the slightest doubt, for it will be as I have vowed. The very ocean, the horde of Varuna, may all on a sudden transgress its continents. The very mountains may split, yet my words can never be false. If Yama himself, or Kuvera, or Rudra assists thee, the Pandavas will still accomplish what they have. vowed, I shall certainly drink the Sasana's blood according to my pleasure. And I also vow that Kritriya whatsoever may then angrily approach me, even if he cometh with Bhishma himself at the van. I will send him to Yama's abode. That which I have said in the midst of the Kshatriya assembly will certainly be true. I swear this by my soul. Hearing these words of Bhimasena, the wrathful Sahadeva also, with eyes red in anger, said these words in the presence of the assembled troops, words that become that proud hero. And he said, Listen, O sinful one, to the words I utter, and which must be repeated to thy father. A difference would never have arisen between us and the Kurus, if Dhritarashtra had no relationship with thee, of sinful acts and exterminator of thy own race. Thou hast been born as an embodiment of quarrel, for the destruction of the whole world, as also for the destruction of Dhritarashtra's race. From our very birth, O Uluka, that sinful father of thine hath always sought to do us injury and evil. I desire to attain the opposite shore of that hostile relation, slaying thee first before the very eyes of Sakuni. I shall then slay Sakuni himself in the sight of all bowmen. Hearing these words of both Bhima and Sahadeva, Falguni smilingly addressed Bhima, saying, O Bhimasena, they that have provoked hostilities with thee cannot leave, though they may dwell happily in their homes. Those fools become yet entangled in the meshes of death. The best of men, Uluka, doth not deserve to be addressed harshly by thee. What fault do envoys commit, repeating as they only do what they are instructed to say? And having thus addressed Bhima of terrible prowess, that mighty armed hero then addressed his heroic allies and well-wishers headed by Dhritarashtra, saying, Ye have heard the words of the sinful son of Dhritarashtra in dispraise of Vasudeva and especially of myself. And hearing them, ye have been filled with anger, because ye wish us well, but through Vasudeva's might and your endeavors, I do not reckon even all the Kshatriyas of the earth assembled together. With your permission, I will now communicate to Uluka what the reply to those words is. What indeed he should say unto Duryodhana, when the morrow cometh stationed at the head of my division. The answer to these words shall I give through Gandiva, for they that are eunuchs answer in words. Hearing this, all those best of kings applauded Dhananjaya, wondering at the ingenuity of that reply. King Yudhishthira, the just then, having spoken mildly unto all the kings, each according to his age and as each deserved, said at last unto Uluka these words, so that he might carry them to Duryodhana. And Yudhishthira said, No good king should patiently bear an insult. Having so long heard what thou hadst to say, I shall now tell thee what my reply is. Having heard then, O best of Bharata's race, those words of Duryodhana, Yudhishthira, that bull of the Bharata's race, with eyes exceedingly red in anger, and himself sighing like a snake of virulent poison, licking the corners of his mouth with his tongue, as if swelling with wrath, and casting his eyes on Janardana and his own brothers, said unto Uluka these words that were fraught with both mildness and vigor, and tossing his massive arms, he said unto the gambler's son, Go, Uluka, and say unto Duryodhana, that ungrateful, wicked-minded embodiment of hostilities, the infamous wretch of his race, these words, Be so sinful wretch, thou always behavest with crookedness towards the Pandavas. O sinful fool, he that displayeth his prowess, relying on his own might, and summoneth his foes to battle, and fulfilleth his own words, even he is a man of the Kshatriya order. Be thou a Kshatriya, O sinful wretch, and summon us to battle. O infamous one of thy race, do not come to battle, placing at thy head others for whom we profess respect. O Kaurava, relying on thy own might and on that of thy servants, summon the sons of Pritha to battle. Be Kshatriya in every way, he who summoneth his foes, relying on might of others, and incapable of receiving them himself. He is indeed a eunuch. Thou, however, thinkest thyself highly, relying on the might of others, being weak and unable thyself. Why then dost thou roar so in words at us? Krishna said, my words also, O gambler's son, should be communicated on to Suryodhana. Let the tomorrow come to thee on which the battle is to take place. O thou of wicked soul, be a man. O fool, thou thinkest Janardana will not fight, since he hath been chosen by the Pandavas to act only as a charioteer. So thou art not alarmed. That, however, will not be, even for a moment. If my wrath is excited, I may then consume all the kings assembled by thee like a fire consuming a heap of straw. At Yudhishthira's command, however, I shall only discharge the function of charioteer to the high-souled Falguni, of senses under complete control, and who alone amongst us two will fight. If thou fliest beyond the limits of the three worlds, if thou sinkest into the depths of the earth, thou shalt even at those places behold Arjuna's car tomorrow morning. Thou thinkest that Bhima's words have been spoken in vain, but know that Dusasana's blood hath already been quaffed. Know this also, that although thou hast uttered such cross and perverse words, yet neither Partha, nor King Yudhishthira, nor Bhimasena, nor any of the twins regard thee as straw. Thus endeth section 163 in the Uluka Dutagamana Parva of the Udyoga Parva.